welcome to Elets eHealth Innovation Talk, a series where we speak to industry players and thought leaders about their revolutionary business ideas and innovations that are transforming the healthcare sector. Joining us today, we have Mr. Sunil Motwani, Country Manager, Sales and Service at MathWorks, and has been associated with the firm since 2008. Welcome, Mr. Motwani. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Garima. Pleasure talking to you today.
In his current role at MathWorks, he drives the sales and customer engagement teams working with customers across multiple industries, including automotive, aerospace, defense, medical devices, and finance. Mr. Motwani is an active contributor at various industry organizations and a regular speaker at conferences and student competitions. So, sir, thank you once again. To begin with, we would like to understand and get an overview on the design and development of medical devices that are there in the country.
So as you know, medical devices industry is one of the highest growing industries, both in India and outside of India. In India, we are actually growing at 2.5x times the way this industry is growing globally. It was estimated that medical devices industry market in India was about $10 billion or so around 2020, and the growth expected is 15% CAGR every year, which means we should very easily be 4x what we are today by 2030. So it's a very growing industry. Again, the entire ecosystem is pretty nicely developing here. We have well-established players, working out of India. We have multinationals doing their design and development activities in India for medical devices that they build for global markets. And we have very strong and thriving a startup community right now developing in India for medical devices.
Right. Wonderful. I think yes, it's a very evolving ecosystem that we are witnessing here right now. So, sir, in terms of technologies and the emerging technologies like AI, machine learning. So, what is the kind of role they are playing in the design of medical devices?
Very good question, Garima. And AI and emerging technologies like machine learning, deep learning are not just pricking the minds of industry leaders in medical devices industry, but they are pricking the minds of every industry leader today. Be it automotive, be it aerospace defense, be it industrial automation, and be it medical devices.
Right.
Every business leader is today thinking about how AI can help them, both grow their business, but also improve the overall customer service and customer, outcome that they can give to their customers in terms of products and services that they deliver to their customers. So in medical devices, AI is going to really transform this industry going forward. I can give you a few simple examples of
Right.
what kind of future healthcare systems that we would see
Mm-hmm.
enabled by AI. There is research going on to create a digital twin of a human being. You know,
Right.
we could have going forward a digital twin of Garima or a digital twin of Sunil Motwani,
Mm-hmm.
on which and that would help our doctors give us very personalized medicines.
Right.
You have already seen in terms of medical devices, robotic surgery, surgeries being done by robots, or surgeries being done remotely by doctors by controlling the robots, who are physically in front of the patient. Uh, we are going to see AI transform the way hospitals are managed.
Mm-hmm.
The way there are going to be digital twins of us, human beings. There is going to be digital twin of a hospital infrastructure. Okay, so the possibilities are endless. Uh, what we are seeing immediately, the
Mm-hmm.
application of AI in medical devices is in the area of diagnostics and predictions, or predicting the outcome of certain treatment.
Right.
On the diagnostic side, a lot of AI is already being used in areas like medical imaging.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because a lot of diagnostics happens with medical imaging right today.
Right.
So instead of doctors kind of giving the diagnosis, we would have computers looking at the images, using the AI algorithms and giving us the diagnosis, which could be far more accurate than
Mm-hmm.
what human beings would be able to give. But I think the best thing would be to kind of combine human intelligence and AI technologies together to be able to do far better accurate diagnostics than we would have ever done in the past.
Right, sir. Yes, I totally agree. The synchronization has to be there between human minds and the technology that is going to disrupting the healthcare ecosystem. So, sir, you were mentioning briefly earlier that about the journey of MathWorks. So, probably if you could help us understand that journey and MathWorks efforts in building the next generation medical devices, while accelerating regulatory compliance.
Uh, Thank you for asking this question, Garima. MathWorks has been making software tools which help engineers and scientists, innovate, bring their ideas to realities. We have two flagship products. One we call as MATLAB, which is basically a technical computing platform for engineers. Uh, Specific to medical devices, MATLAB is a platform that would help engineers create algorithms and AI models for
Hmm.
biomedical data analysis. We have another platform called as Simulink, which is used for simulating complex medical devices with sensors and software. Okay, and Simulink enables a design methodology, what we call as model-based design, where you
Okay.
model the physical behavior of a medical device. You can model, for example, a very very complex robotic, surgery
Hmm.
equipment,
Okay.
uh, and generate uh, all the embedded software that is required to control that robot. And as you mentioned, regulatory standards, right? There are very stringent regulatory standards for any embedded software that goes in a medical device that interacts with patients, because
Right.
patient security is very very important.
Absolutely.
There are international standards that companies have to follow, like IEC standards for medical devices, and with our tools, enabling uh, this model-based design methodology, it becomes easier for engineers to design embedded quality software code which
Hmm.
conforms to those standards. Again, in the
Right.
standards, there are different, the medical devices are classified into three different classes: Class A, Class B, and Class C. Class A are the lowest risk medical devices for the patient, and Class C are the highest ones. So
Hmm.
the standards, for Class C devices are very, very stringent. And with our tools, engineers working in developing these medical devices and products that interact with human beings are able to give safety critical software uh, which adheres to these standards.
Right, right. Absolutely wonderful, sir. So, sir, in terms of the design, implementation, and verification, of a product or a technology, how is MathWorks ensuring efficient integration of automation across these various stages?
So the automation is built through the entire process of model-based design that I mentioned.
Okay.
Okay. Typically, when you are designing a product, you start with the requirements, right? You gather the requirements, you kind of put those requirements uh, in uh, in some kind of form. It could be textual, or it could be in the form of a high-level block diagram model of that system or a subsystem that you are designing. So we support the design process right from defining your requirements to building a high level system, what we call a system level architectural model of that system that
Okay.
would define how the subsystems within that system connect to each other, behave with each other. And then we use physics based modeling to do a detailed model for each of those elements that make that system.
Okay.
If you understand the physics behind it, if you know the equations behind it, then our tools help the engineers to build the complete design model of that system. And since this is all being done in the virtual world, your verification and validation happens much before you even build a prototype of that product. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
And the other important automation that we do is we help engineers directly generate software code for implementing those algorithms which have been built into these models, directly converting those algorithms into C code or HDL code, which can be implemented on the hardware that would finally be used for production of those devices. Okay, so there is a complete automated process,
Okay.
right from requirements to implementation, doing verification and validation at each stage, and thereby conforming to those uh, stringent requirements that are there for safety critical software to be put in medical devices.
Okay, okay, right. So, in terms of leveraging the potential of innovation, as well as knowledge and data in the healthcare sector, what do you think is needed? Uh, the most.
I think there is no dearth of ideas, Garima. There are budding engineers coming out of universities with great ideas. You see
Right.
the startup ecosystem is thriving everywhere today, including a lot in India. I think what we need to do is to help uh, you know these engineers, and by building an ecosystem whereby they feel comfortable in testing out these new ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where uh, companies like ours who make software tools which help engineers kind of, as I said, convert their ideas to realities. We need
Mm-hmm.
to work very closely with academia. We need to work very closely with established industry players. We need to work very closely with government in trying to build that entire ecosystem, which then fosters these kind of innovative ideas to come together and create some world class products. I think what India lacks today is a great world class product that is designed, developed, and made in India, and is
Right.
world class and is used by the global industry. It's not
Right.
that we are not designing and developing the products, but we are doing it for
Others.
uh, others.
Yeah.
So we need to create an ecosystem within our country, and for
Mm-hmm.
that, we are playing our role in some ways. We have collaborations with academias. Our tools are extensively used by academia to teach various subjects of engineering in the universities and colleges. Um, these many of the universities and colleges in India today have incubation centers where
Right.
young engineers can come with ideas and start their own startups. So we are tying up with these accelerators, giving access of our tools to these startup companies which are getting incubated in those universities. We have also tied up with multiple government organizations like Niti Aayog, STPI.
Okay.
We have tied up with government on the Atal Innovation Mission.
Okay.
All the incubation centers which are part of Atal Innovation Mission today have access to our tools. Okay. So
Okay.
we are trying to play our role, and I think established industry players are also trying to play their role by encouraging and in whatever way they can
Mm-hmm.
helping this ecosystem develop in the country. And of course, we have great faculty, professors, in some of our tier one institutes who are providing all the technical mentoring
Mm-hmm.
that these organizations need.
Yes, I think you predicted my next question that you answered it much before, that how can a collaborative environment be built for faster adoption of innovations in the healthcare system. So there you go, we have a live example. So I think you've answered this. In case you want to add anything, in terms of a collaborative environment, do you think anything more is needed?
Um, you know, I kind of more
I
or
mean,
less answered that question, but
yes, yes.
just to probably add, there could be some collaboration that we would be doing, both at state government and central government levels, and we need
Okay,
to probably figure out, if there are any redundancies that are there, because redundancies
right.
bring in some waste,
Mm-hmm.
so we need to kind of it's good for everyone to come together and put their might behind it, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, we need to kind of try to reduce waste and
Mm-hmm.
see that we have collaboration, and not in that collaboration we are not introducing any waste.
Right, sir, right.
That
And
could be another area to look at. Yeah.
okay, okay, sure, thank you. And what innovation or innovations do you foresee further accelerating the pace of transformation in the healthcare sector?
uh, I'll give you another example, and that's the kind of thought that I think a lot of people had during the pandemic. All of us were wondering when we would get
Hmm.
the vaccine, and probably right now we are wondering when we would have actually a cure, if
Right.
possible. And when the vaccine was being developed, we all knew that it has to go through very stringent clinical trials,
Hmm.
and those trials have to be conducted on real patients, real people, real human beings. Uh, I think, going down the line, I don't know how many years it would take, but we are certainly going into that era when you would actually see virtual humans
Hmm.
uh, on whom the clinical trials would run virtually. You know, so for example, if I'm developing a medical device or if I'm developing a medical drug, instead of running those clinical trials on real human beings, I would be able to model both my medical device and drugs and model the virtual human being, and
Right.
thereby do clinical trials of the device or the drug on a virtual human being. And
Hmm.
then the possibilities are endless, because in the virtual world I can create human beings with different characteristics, different age groups, for example. I
Right.
don't need to
Right.
run trials on children separately, and I don't need to run trials on senior citizens separately. I would be able to run trials in a virtual environment by defining my own virtual patient
Right.
that would
Right, sir.
that would
Right.
belong to different age groups. So that's the kind of era we need to get into, and take virtualization to that level.
Okay. Okay. Right. Probably just one last thing. The future, and the future roadmap for MathWorks.
Uh, as I said, from the time we have been incorporated, our entire focus has been, and we have remained focused on, what our mission has been. Our mission statement very clearly says we will build tools to accelerate the pace of engineering and science. So when it comes to medical devices, there is a lot of engineering and biomedical science that goes into it. Uh,
Right.
at MathWorks, we will continue to put in efforts by focusing on energies on building tools which will make jobs of scientists and engineers very easy to foster new generation devices, new generation technologies, and come out with products uh, which touches every human being on the planet. You know, Today there is such a huge population in the world
Hmm.
who does not have access to healthcare system.
Right.
I
Right.
think I think our endeavor should be to see how we can make healthcare reach each and every human being on this planet.
Right.
For that to happen, we need to have, and we are creating infrastructure, with remote health monitoring systems, with uh, you know uh, remote surgeries that can be performed, uh, with ability to reach out to remote places with with drones and others to supply medical supplies, or even blood which is not available sometimes in remote medical hospitals. So technologies like drones are being used to do that. I think all our energies should be focused in that direction, and MathWorks will continue to play a role in helping engineers and scientists build these next generation systems, which would help us, as I said, touch or bring healthcare closer to the doorstep of every human being on this planet.
Right, right. Wonderful. And our best wishes with you, Mr. Motwani and MathWorks. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure listening to your thoughts and and your visionary ideas transforming the healthcare sector. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Garima. Pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.